A simple security update, the kind that usually causes barely a ripple of recognition, instead triggered a worldwide tsunami of technological breakdown. Airport information panels turned to blue screens of death in the US, red in France. Worldwide, more than 4,000 flights cancelled. Huge queues built up from Singapore to Spain, from Delhi to Dubai. Breaking news, itself broken at source. Crucial health systems like the NHS app infected with the same digital disease. Here, that's meant GP surgeries unable to make appointments and in some cases call up medical records to treat patients, with impacts too on pharmacies.
We have not been able to process any prescriptions, new prescriptions at all. So we are having to explain to patients the situation.
It's hit transport, with air passengers and their luggage having to be manually processed, delaying flights. Trains have also been affected. It's spread to payroll systems and card payments, Waitrose among the big retailers to be hit by the outage.
I always carry cash, because you never know when it happens.
Well, you've been proven right today.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know.
It's all right if it's only going to be 24 hours, people can cope, but a few days of it would be really serious, wouldn't it, for some people?
Serious enough for government officials, if not cabinet ministers, to conduct an emergency Cobra response meeting.
What this incident shows is just how dependent we are on IT systems, and when something like this happens, how fast and how widespread the effects are. The reassuring thing in this case is that it's not a hostile act, it's not a security attack. The cause has been identified.
With CrowdStrike, you get AI-powered threat protection.
The source of this crisis, the very software designed to prevent one. CrowdStrike's Falcon system is on servers and computers around the world and updates regularly to keep ahead of cyber threats. The CEO has said he's deeply sorry that this update contained a bug, more horror movie than Western, with the call coming from inside the house.
CrowdStrike. We stop breaches.
CrowdStrike's key selling point is something known as endpoint protection, detecting and preventing threats to the endpoints of a business's IT system, like laptops, for example, and preventing those threats from going back to the center and infecting other machines. The crucial problem here, though, was that the issue was at the very center of CrowdStrike itself and traveled out the other way, shutting down servers and computers around the world. In the short term, at least, that's meant rebooting individual devices, deleting the software update, and reverting to the previous version.
Now, this doesn't take too long. We're talking 30 seconds to a minute, but that's for every single computer, and it has to be a person that does it. All of these systems need manual interaction to fix them. We're probably talking millions of computers, looking at the scale of the outbreak.
25 years ago, there was speculation, some fearful, some comedic, that financial systems would crash. Planes fall from the sky as 1999 ticked over to the year 2000. The Y2K bug proved to have been a phantom all along. The real menace, it turns out, in 2024 was a simple software update on which so much of our invisible infrastructure was resting.
Well, earlier I spoke to Kieran Martin, a former head of the National Cyber Security Centre, and I began by asking him how a single system could cause so much chaos.
That is the critical question. Narrowly here, there seems to have been a failure of essentially product testing by a major cybersecurity company. These things are released all the time. It's crucial that they do two things. One is they secure the network. That's the point of them, and CrowdStrike has a great record in product security. But the second thing is they're compatible with the host, if you like. And clearly, much like a bad medicine interacting wrongly with the human body, what they've done here is essentially brought down users of Windows. And the reason it's been so devastating is that both Microsoft Windows, which we all know about, but also CrowdStrike for security, which fewer people will know about, are kind of top of the range products. So lots of big companies on which we all critically depend, airlines, whatever it may be, use both. And that's why the impact has been so ferocious, almost unprecedented, I would say.
What does it say about our systems that they can't be kind of backed up and use other systems to put in its place? Because it seems like there's a monopoly almost of Microsoft and CrowdStrike here.
So the monopoly argument does work both ways, and that one of the reasons why some of the products are regarded as so good is the scale of the companies that produce them. It takes a lot of money and investment, but of course then you get the single point of failure. What we're really bad at globally, and this shows this, is coping with IT systems failure, and IT systems fail all the time. So it's a bit like after the pandemic, we started to re-examine the just-in-time economy, the single network provider. Yeah, sure, it may be cheap and it may work very well until it doesn't.
And for people who are dealing with this right now, planes or in trying to get a GP appointment, how long will everything take to kind of get back up and running?
It has to be done individually. CrowdStrike can't just uninstall this, nor can Microsoft. It has to be done individually. So who's going to do that, and how quickly is each organization going to do that? The second is how complicated is the network, because the more complicated it is, the more you're going to have to make sure that you do it carefully and properly so you don't cause some other problem somewhere else. We now know what the problem was. It is being dealt with. So I don't think we're talking about a very long tail.
You used to be the head of the UK National Cybersecurity Centre. How would you be advising the government at the moment on what to do?
We really need to talk at international level. I mean, both these companies are American, so we can't just pass a law saying this can't happen again, because that's not the way global tech works. But we really have a problem here. This is one of a number of really embedded structural problems in internet security and resilience. And it's a really hard problem. It's basically derives from the whole way in which the internet arose organically. Nobody ever designed it. Nobody ever really thought about its security and resilience, because we didn't really know what we were building 20, 30 years ago. We need to start thinking about how to design out these structural flaws, where one pretty simple mistake and failure of product control leads to what we've seen today.
As you've said, this was a mistake, and CrowdStrike say they are fixing it. I just wonder, are there cyber security criminals looking at all of this, looking at all this chaos, thinking, well, that was easy?
Actually making the mistake is harder than doing this maliciously, because you'd have to actually work very hard. You have to get into CrowdStrike, work out where all these dependencies are, and then make this mistake deliberately without anybody noticing. So that's much harder than just the sort of human and systems failure element from within the company. So that's the good news. The bad news is this isn't the only hidden vulnerability in the global internet infrastructure. And some of the others are easier to attack. Back in 2017, there were two huge global internet disruptions that both arose. One was from North Korea, the other was from Russia, and they were both mistakes, but they were malicious mistakes. In other words, they're trying to attack a particular target, and it went wrong, and it went all over the globe, and it caused huge disruption. So when we're looking at our global and national digital resilience, we really need to look at the lessons of this, even though this was not a malicious act.
Professor Martin, thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.